Universities a lot, at least a lot of abstract field.
Hi. Am I streaming? Is anybody know? It says live. I should get a notification. Wait for it. How you guys doing? Who brought those? Are they good? What are they? Oh, donuts. Who wants a donut? I'm not going to eat all these. You can get them afterwards. Share the things I do for online people. What do I do? Oh, write post. Post. Hey, there's me on my own phone. All right. This is hot. Let's pray, and we'll get started. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, now and forever. All right, somebody have a seat. Everyone have a seat, and somebody turn on the AC. Mid-October in San Diego, I'm turning on the AC. Do it. I'm in charge here. Don't listen to anybody else. Is everybody actually cold right now? How? It's like 1,000,000 degrees in here. Who wants a donut? Seriously. I don't eat sugar. I'm very happy that you brought them, but you guys have to eat these. It's on you. Or you can deliver them to the other Bible study. People that appreciate them. How you guys doing? Good. All right. You guys are boring. Terrible. As usual. That's why we're doing Ecclesiastes. All right. We're on chapter 7 today. And it's going to end badly, I'll just tell you that much, for about 60% of you in here. We'll figure that out when we get there, okay? So go to chapter 7, verse 1. He ends the last chapter with this line. Go to the last verse of the last chapter. For who knows what is good for man in life? In the days of vanity, for he spends them like a shadow. Who can tell man what will be better, what will be after him under the sun? So he ends with this kind of note of, I don't know, intellectual humility, this kind of like skepticism. I have no idea. I don't know what to tell you what's good. He does know things that are bad. He knows that, living certain ways is a waste of time, and he'll tell you that. And then you're like, okay, well, then how am I supposed to live? And he's like, I know not this, but I don't know exactly, he doesn't have a positive answer necessarily. And what are the little hints that we've gotten so far about at least a more positive answer? Who remembers some of the things that have come in the previous weeks? So, for example, one of the lifestyles he just doesn't think could ever be happy, a good life, would be just collecting money your entire life, right? Remember that from a couple of weeks ago? So what's his alternate to that? And it's come about 3 or 4 times so far in the book. It is work moderately, not too much so that you're just piling up money and doing nothing but working, but work and then enjoy the fruits of your work. Okay. Now, he's not saying that is the absolute best way to live your life. I don't think he would have the sort of boldness to say this is the best way to live. He's just saying that way of life is better than just collecting money. You guys see that? So he's confident enough to say one thing's better than another. He's not quite at this is best. All right? So that's the kind of attitude he leaves us with in the last chapter. So let's start the next chapter. Chapter 7, verse 1. Better a good name than good oil, and the day of death than the day one is born. All right. This sounds just like Koheleth so far. Better a good name than good oil. Now, what does good name mean? Let's kind of work through this. What does good name mean?
Family name, reputation.
Reputation. Yeah. Now, I don't know. Even reputation's kind of a vain thing, right? In fact, before the end of this chapter, he's going to talk about how that's a vain thing too. Reputation. but it's better than good oil. What do you think good oil could mean?
My thing says perfume.
Perfume.
Yeah.
Okay, that works. Anybody else have an alternate translation? I have more desserts coming now. Give me it. Don't put it on that table out there. I want to hear. Thank you, Ruby. Okay, listen. I was going to say, hey, give this to Father Danny. And you guys divide it there. Because he was jealous of me before. See, now we're talking. Sugar-free biscotti. Here we go. Ready? Oh, yeah. You guys can have any. You can have some later. Okay. Perfume. Anybody else have an alternate? Another, like, word in there? Yeah.
Precious ointment.
Precious ointment. Okay. So, I kind of like that better than what Alter did here. So what's he contrasting? It's better to have a good reputation than to have good oil or perfume or why are these two things alternate? Why do you have to pick between the two? Why can't you have both, a good name and, whatever, nice cologne? Sugar-free biscotti. Nobody knows?
I'm thinking
What does
because
he mean when he says
a
good
perfume
cologne?
is more like for a kingly person, and precious ointment, that's the same type of thing. So you don't necessarily have to be kingly to have a good reputation.
Okay, maybe.
A lot of times, kingly people and people.
Here's the thing. If you guys were smart, you would just say, "Can we just keep reading?" Because he's going to tell us the answer right now. I'm just going to mess with you guys. But I want you to get thinking right now, because this type of dialectical literature, he wants us to ask questions as we're reading. Okay, bitter, good name, good oil, and the day of death and the day one is born. How could that be better? How could the day of death be better than the day one is born? So look at these two things we have. We have a good name, and we have whatever, perfume, and then death, and then born. Weird, right? What do these have in common? What do these have in common? These are celebrations and things you do for celebrations. These are fancy, fun things. These have to do with seriousness. These are serious. I mean, you have to sort of be a serious person to have a good reputation, at least in sort of traditional thinking about things. And death is a serious date. So the contrast in the chapter today, chapter 7, is going to be between these two things versus just sort of fun. Okay, that's kind of the theme of the book, of the chapter today. And that this is the better one of the two. Now, why would he need to say this? Because so far, the only real message anybody's gotten from him that's positive is, yeah, you should just go make money and then enjoy your money. Now he has to sort of temper that. He's already made that statement. He wants to give us a little bit more sort of nuanced of an answer. Good? Okay. Better to go to the house of mourning than to the house of carousing. So now, what are our alternates to the, what is the one here, Holy Cross? No, what's the name of the cemetery here? Holy Cross, okay. He's saying it's better to go to Holy Cross Cemetery than to Hooley's. Hooley's is this bar down here. Why is that better? You see where he's getting at? Would anybody want that? Like, yeah, totally. I love going to the cemetery. If you raise your, we got to talk. If that's like what you prefer. But then he's saying it's better. Why though? Now we finally get to the reason. For that is the end of all men. Let the living take it to heart. Why is this better? Because this is where we're all going to end up. And so somehow this is more real. And that means alternately, this stuff is kind of fake. Now, it's sort of obvious how, if perfume is the right translation here, it's sort of obvious how this is fake. How is perfume fake? I was just telling Father Danny this earlier today. I sit in the confessional, for hours on Sunday, Saturday and Sunday. I'm sitting there and people come in, blah, 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 blah. And everybody knows I'm pretty fast when you come to confession to me. That's fine. I'm telling myself that it's fine, right? There's some kid that comes. I'm not bringing any silk. I have no idea who this is, and I'm not revealing his sins. Somebody goes in there with the strongest cologne, and it's through a screen. And as soon as he gets there, it's like boom, it's like the cologne like punches me through the nostrils into my brain. Middle Eastern men, I think, in general, wear a lot of cologne. Is that racist? It's a little bit racist. What?
If you were to see him in public, you'd recognize him as cologne.
I can't recognize like the type of cologne because it's so strong. All I smell is like alcohol. It's like he just drowned himself in tequila and walked in. Okay. Anyway, I don't know why I'm saying that. Oh, so what's fake about cologne? Well, you don't smell that way, dude. That ain't your natural smell. I'm not saying it's like this deceitful, malicious lie, but like there's something sort of fake about it. Okay. You can insert whatever you want. You know, hair extensions or makeup or whatever. Stuff like that. So that is the end of let the living take to heart. Better worry than merriment. Okay, back to this theme. For by a scowl, the heart is gladdened. Now it's going a little bit sort of more detailed. You know what a scowl is? It's my face at any given moment. Okay? We call it RBF now. Okay? That's a scowl. And he says that gladdens your heart. How would a scowl gladden your heart? Well, we can sort of piece things together already. At least it's sincere. And part of this sort of, the theme of what's going on today is you sort of, a sincere sort of mean word from somebody is better than a fake compliment. I kind of think there's part of what's going on in this chapter. All right? The wise man's heart is in the house of mourning, and the heart of fools is in the house of mirth. Okay, so he's just kind of repeating this over and over again. Better to hear the rebuke of the wise man than a man hearing the song of fools. All right, you see how now he's really getting to it. It's better to have a wise, and this is mentioned in Psalms. I'd rather have a wise person yell at me to teach me something right than to go and have fun with a dummy. Okay, that's really what's going on here. For like the sound of thorns beneath the pot, so is the laughter of the fool. That's kind of this idiom that Robert Alter was kind of like, it's like crackling. I don't know, maybe he's sort of making fun of the way some people laugh. I don't know. And this too is vanity. Okay, now he's going to shift to something different. And this is going to answer a question that I asked about the first verse. Look at this next verse. Verse 7. And this too is mere breath. For oppression's profit drives the wise man wild, and a bribe destroys the mind. You see what the shift he just made there? The profit of oppression. I think what's going on here is that if you're having fun all the time, fun costs money. And to get the kind of money it takes to just not do nothing but have fun all the time, you're doing something dishonest. I think that's the shift he's making here. It's the profit of oppression. Now, even if you didn't gain the money dishonestly, what did this make me think of? It made me think of the parable of the rich man and Lazarus. Jesus brings this up. There's this rich man, he feasts sumptuously every day, he wears fancy clothes, blah, 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 all this stuff. And at his porch was a beggar, a poor man named Lazarus. And Lazarus died on his porch. It doesn't matter how the rich man got his money. That's irrelevant. The fact is, instead of partying every day, he could have helped Lazarus not die. Okay, and I think that's what's going on here. Regardless, now he's saying it's the profit of oppression. He's sort of saying even the source of it is relevant. For Jesus, even if the source of it is honest, there's still something bad about letting somebody around you die and just using all your money for partying. All right? At least buy that guy a beer too. Better a thing's end than its beginning, better patience than haughtiness. Okay. By the way, I made this little note here, I might as well mention it. Better to hear the rebuke of the wise than a man hearing the song of fools. What about by a scowl the heart is gladdened? Again, a New Testament reference here. I don't think that's referring to this, or this certainly not referring to the New Testament, but something that I think we can see as an expression of this. John the Baptist, who is he preaching to? Who remembers? That got really pissed off at him and imprisoned him. King Herod. King Herod, right? Imprisoned him, and then it says, there's this very funny verse in the gospel. It says, and even while he was prison, he was preaching against King Herod, and it said Herod used to go and listen to him preach against him, and it says, the verse says, and he heard him gladly. So even King Herod, who was just completely in this like party lifestyle, even he, when John the Baptist was literally talking crap to his face, somehow found pleasure in the truth, even though as far as we know, he didn't ever have a conversion of heart. But even though he was the sort of target of John the Baptist's, scowl, there was some pleasure in hearing that. Do you guys get a sense that that's right? I get the sense when I'm yelled at and like, oh, somebody calls me out, it hurts. It's kind of like a punch in the face, and you're kind of like stunned for a second. But then you're like, oh man, I'm really grateful that somebody told me this. I'm glad, because I didn't know this about myself, or I wasn't aware as I should have been about, I don't know, how this was affecting people or whatever. And now I know, after that initial shock, it does kind of feel good to like know something, learn something about yourself, even though it was painful originally. Okay? All right. Go to verse 9. Do not be rash in your mood to be angry. So now he's going to shift to anger. This is kind of the next theme. For anger rests in the lap of fools. Say not, what has happened that the days gone by were better than these, for you asked not about this in wisdom. You know what he's saying? He's saying, if you think things were better before, you're a fool. You did not ask that question. What happened that things are so much worse now? He's saying you're a fool if you think things were better before. Things were always terrible. You know what? This is a point that I bring up pretty regularly in conversation with people. Oh, things are so bad now. Yeah, they are bad now. And they were bad before too. And you don't realize that because... let me put it this way. I think part of the motivation of wanting to believe that is to give yourself an excuse. And things are worse now, therefore I don't have to be as good as my grandparents were. No, I don't think you do know that they're worse. I don't know, maybe some things are worse now than they were before. And then some things are better. You know. I mean, there's people alive today that like weren't allowed to use a water fountain because they were black. They're still alive today. It wasn't that long ago. And that was like the golden, that was a time, things were so much better then. Not for that guy. You know? And maybe the economy was better in some, maybe when you guys were younger. But, you know, there were bad things, other things that were worse in other ways. You know what I mean? And a thing that I think happens to everybody, and I think everybody in here is old enough to understand this, when you're a kid and young and like youthful and energetic, everything seems better. It's not that the world has gotten worse, it's that you have. You're just kind of like tired now. Really? You know? You guys kind of feel me on that? All right. And anyway, Koheleth is here saying, if you even ask that question, it's kind of a dumb question to ask. In the end, let's say things are objectively worse now than they were before. Okay, then so what? What does it matter? Not at all. It doesn't matter at all. Okay, better wisdom with a legacy. It is an advantage to those who see the sun. For his wisdom shade is money's shade, and the gain of wisdom's knowledge keeps its possessors alive. All right, this is kind of a funny thing he's saying. He's like, all right, if you have money, let's say, if you have wisdom, and you have that wisdom and you use it to get some money, I mean, that's okay. Wisdom plus money is better than just wisdom by itself. That's kind of what he's saying here. And he's like, if you're using wisdom and if your money is gained through wisdom, that's okay. There's nothing bad. I don't know if he's kind of trying to correct what he said before, but it's more like, and the legacy thing is more about kind of security. Better wisdom with a legacy. For in wisdom's shade is money's shade, and the gain of wisdom's knowledge keeps its possessors alive. So you're at least, if you're wise, you're not going to let yourself starve to death. I think that's kind of what's going on here. Yeah.
So my translation says for verse 11, advantage to those who see the sun.
Oh, the sun thing? It is an advantage to those who see the sun. And you're saying he used to say under the sun before? Cool. I don't know. That's a good question. You should not look directly at the sun. I know that. That's all I got on that one. But it's a cool question. See God's work, for who can straighten what he has made crooked. Not sure what to say about that. I don't even see any much comments on this. On the day of good luck, enjoy the good, and on the day of evil, see, one against the other God has set, so that man find nothing after him. I've seen everything in my days of vanity, the righteous perishing in his righteousness, and the wicked living a long life in his evil. Here's this very shocking line. And I'm just going to sort of say this and explain what I think it means, and we'll just kind of leave it and see if there's something later that can help us understand it. Do not be, this is what my translation says, maybe yours is different. Do not be over righteous, and do not be over wise. Does anybody, what does your translation say?
You're not righteous over much.
Yeah. Don't be too good? How can the Bible tell us not to be too good? That doesn't seem right. That's what it says, though. I don't think that's. I wouldn't give you. I would say do your best to be as good as you possibly can. Maybe righteous means something else. Maybe it doesn't mean just objectively a good person, because righteousness has to do with obeying the law. At least in the Old Testament, in many places in the Old Testament, it means that. Maybe he's saying, don't be too legalistic. Maybe it means don't be too self-righteous. Maybe it means when he says don't be too wise, don't think that you're that wise. Maybe I'm just watering it down. I don't know. I kind of just want to let that sit and be uneasy. It's just kind of a weird verse. I'm going way too fast. I'm going to run out of material soon. I said that. Okay. Oh, look, he's talking to me. Yep. Do not be over righteous, do not be over wise. And then I'm just like sitting there like, man, that's really weird. And then the next line is, why should you be dumbfounded? Don't be over wicked and don't be a fool. Okay, so don't be too bad and don't be stupid. I don't see how that helps, though. Do not be over righteous, do not be over wise. Why should you be dumbfounded? Don't be over wicked and don't be a fool. So be moderate in your wisdom.
It says, lest thou die before thy time.
Why should you die before your time?
You're stupid.
Yeah, I guess dumb people die before their time. I'm not worried. I'm not at all worried that he's saying don't be too foolish. That's clear. I don't get why he would say don't be too wise.
You mean like don't be naive?
As far as wisdom, or as...
Well, sometimes you're just such a good. Sometimes there are people that are just so good and so nice that they're almost naive. And
Okay, when Jesus brings up something like this, he says, "Be wise as serpents." He does say that. Yeah, I don't know. Is this bothering anybody else or just me? Yeah.
I have a feeling it like sort of blends in with having pridefulness, and like they could mix us something.
The pridefulness of sort of thinking that you're wise and you're better than everybody else and I'm righteous. That certainly would make sense with a lot of things in the New Testament, and judging others and stuff like that. Maybe. Yeah. Maybe. Actually, let's keep going. Maybe that is going to be the solution. Look at this. It is good that you seize this, and from the other as well do not take back your hand. For he who fears God will get out of them all. Fearing God is going to be the way to sort of get out of all these being too wise or too righteous or too foolish or too whatever, too wicked. Then wisdom is stronger for the wise than 10 rulers who are in the town, for there is no man righteous on earth who does good and will not offend. Maybe that is right. Maybe it's like don't think that you're righteous because nobody's that righteous. Maybe this verse is like shedding light on the previous one. Maybe. I don't know. I love how you guys come in here and you hear me just say I don't know all the time.
Which verse are you on?
21.
Oh, okay.
To all the words too that they speak. Okay, this is the next topic, so let me pause for a second. Okay, so far so good? Let's see what we've learned so far. Better to be serious than just have fun all the time. For some of the reasons that we've talked about. Or at least, now, Again, do we have the impression that you should just never have fun ever? No, because he's said that a million times so far. You should enjoy the stuff that you've worked for. So he's correcting or sort of nuancing something that he said before. He's established, yes, enjoy yourself, just don't overdo it. Or do it in the right way. Let's think about that for a second. Do you guys know anybody who is just like, all they do is have fun all the time?
Yep.
No? You don't know anybody like that? Like they don't have a job, they're sort of whatever. Because you got to work, and work, like, okay, some people have fun at work, but you can have fun doing your job, that's fine. But there are some people that instead of doing their job, they just have fun, which means somebody else has to do their job. Right? Usually it's me. Yeah. And then I want to think about the death thing for a second. The guy who's having fun all the time, one of the reasons why that's a bad way to live is because he's forgetting that he's going to die one day. What do you think? Why is that? Why are those two things connected? I'm going to have more biscotti. Who wants? Anyway, you guys are so freaking lame. It's sugar-free biscotti. It's actually quite good. Nobody wanted a donut. Oh, I'm sorry. You brought it in. I gave it away. I'm so sorry.
David wasn't here yet. David wasn't here yet. Yeah.
David does not need a donut. Why is it foolish to just party all the time, and what does that have to do with dying one day?
Well, isn't our purpose on earth to kind of test how we're going to get to heaven? So if we're foolish all the time and don't realize that one day we're going to die and our purpose here is to get to heaven, then
Okay.
that's kind of like the boundary.
Heaven makes immediate sense of this. Judgment after death makes immediate sense of this. However, he never mentions the afterlife. And in fact, the only time he does mention it is like, I don't know, maybe there's life after death, but I'm not sure. And that would make immediate sense of this. I agree with you. But I don't think we have that at our disposal right now. Yeah.
Does it have to do with the same? I mean, the belief that to know Christ is to suffer, because in suffering is where we find Christ.
This guy does not know who Christ is. This is Koheleth, man. This is centuries before Christ. Yep. How about this? How about the guy who's partying all the time? It's not that he doesn't know that he's going to die. It's that he's blocking that out. And you get drunk and you party and you're whatever, having fun all the time because you don't want to think about the fact that you're going to die. So what you're doing when you're partying all the time is blocking out a very important part of reality. And when you're blocking out that reality, you're blocking out part of the truth from your mind. And how can you be wise if your entire lifestyle is meant to block out the truth? Does that make sense? No. Because I'm off you eating. And that means being aware of your death is an important part of wisdom. We've run across this already earlier in the book. Raise your hand. No, raise your hand. Do you guys ever reflect on the fact you're going to die? Anybody enjoy that idea? Like, oh yeah, I love thinking about when I'm going to die. To get away from you guys. No, it's a scary thought, right? We talked about a few weeks ago, it came up. Your physical body is going to just die. You're going to be buried in the ground. The faith tells us we're going to face God. That, I think, is a lot scarier than dying. You're going to face God. He's going to judge you all. Okay. and then all your friends are going to be at your funeral. You ever imagine that? I don't think I've ever thought about this. Let me think about this. My friends are at my funeral. That's kind of a sobering thought. And then what are they going to say about who's actually going to show up? That's a good thought. Who is actually going to take that morning off of work to show up to your funeral? You ever think about that? Do you guys see just thinking about that kind of levels off? It kind of regulates your priorities when you think about that, you know? Because maybe the people that you're really that you think are really important, if you just sort of realistically think, would they even show up to my funeral? Oh, maybe they wouldn't. And it kind of helps you to let that go and not be so obsessive about certain people that maybe don't really care much about you. You know what I mean? That's one thought. Would they show up to your funeral, realistically? Would they take a day off? Maybe, maybe not. And then when they did, would they just sort of do it out of obligation? And then when it's done, you're buried in the ground. Okay, they'll show up to your funeral here at church, but then you got to go to the cemetery. That's a whole different story. What if it's hot that day? You know? I don't go to those a lot. I'll go to the church thing. I was there this morning. I didn't go, it was a good friend, like a family member, a good friend, but Father Denny had it handled. I didn't know, It's uncomfortable. And what if it's raining? How many of them would go then? You guys see, so this idea of death, what's it doing? It's kind of like, you know how power washing works? Power washing is like really high pressure water and you just blast it against the concrete or something, and then it gets rid of the dirt. Is like really embedded sometimes into the concrete, but you power blast it, you power wash it, and like all the stuff that was sort of corroded, it sort of pushes it out. And I think that's the way our attachment sometimes can be like. And I think the idea of death, thinking about death and kind of actively reflecting on it, gets rid of the corrosion that sort of builds up that we're attached to. It's hard for us to kind of let things go or to reprioritize things, but I think it's a really helpful way to do that. Think about that. And to not do that and to kind of just keep that corrosion is foolish. You guys see that? I think that's a lot of what's going on in this book. And that's why the sort of seriousness, this guy is actually happier than this guy. Because this guy, he's having all this fun, but he's not really in tune with reality. And he's blocking out reality. This guy, maybe he doesn't laugh as much and he doesn't get drunk and whatever, but he's in touch with reality. And what he's rejoicing in is real. Whereas what this guy's rejoicing in isn't real. It's just like that corroded, it's just that like junk that's kind of attached to it. You following me? Okay. All right, let's go to this next verse. I'm on verse 21. To all the words too that they speak, do not pay heed. Okay, so here's some more. This is really funny because the first verse of this chapter says, better a good name than good oil. Now he's saying, you know what? Even the good name thing kind of sucks. Do not pay heed, do not pay attention to all the words they say, that you hear not your servant reviling you. What is this about? It's about gossip. Don't worry about gossip. Why should you not worry about gossip? Well, I think sort of people were talking bad about you. You get so upset. Oh, I can't believe they said that. Like, okay, again, you're dying, or let's say you're at your funeral and you're watching your funeral. Does that matter now that you're dead? No, who cares? Forget it. Who cares? Like, move on. Don't there's more important things in life than what somebody said about you. And then, for many times too, your heart has known that you too have reviled others. Okay, I think is great advice about gossip. You know when you hear somebody gossip about you, you hear about somebody gossiping about you, you know you gossip about them too. You also know you were full of crap too. You said things that you weren't sure about. Maybe you even made stuff up or exaggerated to make them look worse. So you know, because you do it, that a lot of gossip is just totally false. Or at least partially false. And if it's partially false and you do it, And they're doing it, and it's part, who cares anymore? It's not that big a deal. You guys with me? Anybody want to defend gossip? No! It is, everybody knows that these things are true.
Isn't gossip like an emotion? You can be willy-nilly one day and another way the next day. I mean,
Maybe.
right? You can pat somebody on the back today, and tomorrow you can want to slug them in the cheek.
I always want to slug him in the cheek.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true. Sometimes you, well, this goes back to these fake friendships too. That's right. Because if you're having fun, all the people you're having fun with, yeah, oh, you're the best. There's like jokes about like fake friends, and they'll talk, oh, you look so good, and then as soon as you turn away, you're like, oh my gosh. Can you believe she wore that? You guys see the problem? So like, if that's the way things are a lot of times, why should you feel good when somebody tells you that, oh, you look so good in that? When you know they might be lying. Okay, then maybe it doesn't really matter. Like, it's not as important as you think it is. Like how you dress or how you smell or how you're perceived. Because that's, a lot of this is just kind of fake illusion and perfume and stuff like that. I do want to say, I think it's worth saying, like, I definitely would not want to smell what most people actually smell like. Like, I appreciate deodorant very much. You know, just don't overdo it. Okay. I'm good. All this I tried out through wisdom. I said, let me grow wise, and it was far away from me. Far away that which was, and deep, deep. Who can find it? This is a humbling, nice thing to say. I like that. Wisdom was far away from me. Far away that which was, and deep, deep. It's kind of poetic. I turned around in my heart to know and inquire and seek wisdom and reckoning, and to know foolish wickedness and mad folly. This was mad folly. Right? Okay. You guys ready for this?
Yeah.
And I find woman more bitter than death. I'm sorry, okay? I'm going to try to understand this in I hope the right way, and I hope it's not as offensive as it sounds. But let's just get through this, ready? I find woman more bitter than death, for she is all snares, and nets her heart, and fetters her arms. He who is good before God will escape her, and an offender will be trapped by her. See, this I have found, said Koheleth, one by one to find a reckoning. Further I sought and did not find. 1 man in 1,000 I found. But a woman among all these I did not find. So among 1,000 people, 1,000 men, I found one real man. Out of 1,000. Women, I didn't even find that.
When he says real man, he means...
I don't know. But whatever it is, he only found one out of 1,000. Okay, this is going to be fun. Let's talk about this. What's the context? This is the context. Why is he saying this? The context will tell us, I think, why he's saying this. In what way is he understanding, quote-unquote, woman? In the context of this, of partying. In the context of the sort of club scene where you want to find whatever. And so if that's the case, it doesn't have to be women, it could be men, just as much. Now, what is he addressing here? He's addressing the obsession of whatever, bagging a member of the opposite sex. That's what he's addressing. So what is the sort of mentality there that, oh man, she's so hot, or he's so this, or whatever, and you raise that sort of object, because at that point they're an object, they're not even a person, but they're an object that you raise so much that they become kind of an idol. And the girl at the bar that seems so gorgeous, she's now your object. You think she's just perfect and amazing, you just have to have her because now she's a possession. He's addressing that mentality. And to that guy, he says, you idiot, she looks so sweet and whatever. I found a woman more bitter than death. So he's addressing that mentality. Now, could he easily be addressing women treating men that way? Absolutely. Okay? There's no reason not to apply it both ways, because men and women both do this with each other. And they objectify each other, but there's this irony that when you objectify a man or a woman, somehow, though they're your object, they're also your God or your idol. And you idolize them at the same time that you make them your object. There's a funny, I kind of need to think about that more, but there's something kind of funny going on there just mentally. Okay. And his response to that is, that person that you think is going to make you eternally happy, if you can just get them in bed, that person has like a digestive system. They fart and poop. They're in bad moods. They can make your life miserable. What do you think? You think that it's just going to be like a nonstop honeymoon for the rest of your life, even for one night? He's sort of smashing that idol, just like he did earlier in the chapter with. It's kind of like the theme of the entire chapter. Death is the thing. Thinking about death is the thing that's going to kind of ground you and bring you back to reality, and then you have more of a chance to actually be happy, and to understand whoever it is. Like, if the person that you're obsessed with is Christ or Our Lady, all right, good. Anybody else, they're just like a bag of water and crap in the end. And they will break your heart and they'll hurt you. And that's exactly what he's saying here. Why does he need to say that? Because we tend to obsess over people and idolize them in this way. And that's the way he addresses it. You guys with me? Now, I'm not saying you should never trust anybody or get married or whatever, but like, don't put somebody up on such a high pedestal and just hand your heart over to people just like that. Okay? I've seen heartbreak way too many times. Way too many times. And it all starts just because, like, okay, wow, they seem so, yeah, they seem. Remember what seem is? Like perfume. Of course, when they're at the club or the bar, they're going to try to look good. That's not the way they always look, and that's just physical appearance. Of course, they're going to act a certain way. Who says that's really them? See what I mean? So the sort of topic of this chapter is, you have a better chance at real happiness if you live in the real world. And you live in the real world when you know that people are people. They're not God. And they're not perfect. Okay? Does that kind of help us understand these verses? They're still pretty mean. I'm not saying that they're horribly sexist and all that, but I think when we see it in context, it helps a little bit make sense of it. Yeah. Yeah.
I know both men and women who I feel like they're at that stage in their life where they're constantly trying to like find their spouse,
Mhm.
doing everything as possible. Like, it's literally on their mind 24/7.
Yeah.
Would you say that that's kind of them idolizing that life, or
Okay, let me repeat the question
kind
from.
of unhealthy?
Yeah. So I think there is, I've noticed very often a kind of unhealthy obsession, not with a particular person necessarily, but with, I have to get married. I don't think that's always that person's fault, because my observation, at least with you guys, is your parents are the ones that are making you freak out every day. When are you going to get married? When are you going to get married? When are you going to get married, right?
Yeah.
Is there any unmarried person here that doesn't hear that from their parents at least once a week?
That does not.
Yeah, the non-Chaldeans, exactly.
I don't do that to my daughter.
Well, God bless you. Okay. But so they're the ones that put it in our head, imam gorat, right? When are you going to get married? So that hurts. Now, even independently of that, oh gosh, I'm getting older, and when am I going to, and then, okay, dude, I just want to announce this right now. Maybe you've never heard this. You're allowed to be happy if you're not married. There's no law, it's not a sin to be happy when you're not married. Do you guys get that? Don't listen to your parents. God is not going to strike you down if you smile. And men, you don't need a woman on your arm to have value, and women, you don't need a man to give your life value. Good. Are we clear on that? You're nodding your heads, but you don't act that way. You don't act that way. You're gonna go home and cry, and when am I gonna find somebody? I don't know. It has nothing to do with me. Figure out your crap. I don't care. I know that's mean. I know it's mean, but it's true. Okay? You guys get it? Now, you're going to go home and tell your parents that, and they're going to get mad at me, and they're going to call the bishop, and they're going to say, Father Andy is like ruining my daughter's life because, like, I don't know how. Because they have to blame somebody. There's something weird. I don't know if this is just like a Chaldean thing or an Iraqi thing or whatever, or if it's just a thing that people do. If something like isn't right, it has to be somebody's fault. Why does it have to be somebody's fault? Sometimes crap just happens, right? But no, if you get sick, here's the example. If you get sick, somehow you did something to get sick. You know, people just get sick sometimes, right, Mom? Like, I'm not talking to my mom. My mom's somewhat reasonable when it comes to stuff like that. But they need to blame you for, like, they need to find somebody to blame. Why? Why do they do that?
2 weeks ago, you didn't wear a jacket.
Yeah, exactly. You didn't wear a jacket, that's why you're sick.
The AC at Bible study.
I would have passed out if I didn't turn the AC on. That's how hot it was to me. That's something I want to think about. I think maybe there's a kind of piety there, like, no, if like something happened and it's not your fault, then like God is unjust. But if one thing we've learned from Koheleth, and we learned the same thing from the book of Job, no, God doesn't, it's not like a one-to-one, you do a bad thing and you get a punishment, like immediately. No, that's not the way life works. Crap just happens sometimes. And that's just the way the world is. I saw somebody that felt really sad. I saw somebody yesterday. I was shopping. And, you know, I can't go anywhere within 30 miles of here without seeing a Chaldean. That hi, Father Andy, okay. I'm just trying to buy a pack of ramen noodles to make my announcement for Bible study, you know. And then they're like, and we're talking and we're chatting and whatever and blah, blah, blah. And then like something had happened to them a number of years ago, and like it was a very sad thing, but then they stopped going to church. And I'm like, oh, come on. Like, no, like it felt like God was like targeting me. Like, it's not. We're built, it's just a world of dust and bags of water, and bad things happen, and sometimes people die, and sometimes people leave us, and that's just the way the world is. God is not victimizing you. You just live in a crappy world. And yes, God created the world, but the world has to be the world, and it can't be God. And because it's not God, that means it's imperfect. And sometimes those imperfections are going to bump into you, and it's going to hurt. It's nothing personal. You guys get that? Okay. And it's not that, you're doing God a favor by going to church and praying anyway. You need him. And when something bad happens and then you turn away from God, you're just hurting yourself. You know? I don't know. Okay. This one man in 1,000 and not a woman among these, I don't know how to make that any more polite. It's just kind of mean. I do think I can make sense of the sort of targeted sexism by pointing out the very likely possibility that his audience is probably mostly men. So he sort of has to stress one side of it more than the other. You know, that's my guess. Except, see this, I found that God made men upright, but they sought many reckonings. This last verse is kind of, you sort of want to, again, attach this to the next chapter, but I might as well comment on it now. God makes people upright. So it kind of has to do with what I was just talking about. God sort of makes things good, but men sought many reckonings. It's kind of calculations. So it's not that, it's God's fault when I sin or something. No, God made you innocent and upright and righteous. You're the one that complicates things by your calculations, and I got to do this, and I got to do this in order to do that, and then I got to wear perfume in order to, I don't know why I'm pointing at perfume, but we're the ones that complicate things for ourselves. God keeps things pretty simple. All right. Any questions so far on any of that?
I would make a comment.
Okay. I didn't ask for comments, but yes, you can. Please.
To the young people.
To the young people, we have wisdom here. Go ahead.
To the young people who are not married and are all the time encouraged, better to be
Ah. Can we give you her mom's number?
Just a statement.
That's a very good statement. I agree with that. Better to be, I'm going to repeat it for the people online. Better to be single and happy than married and unhappy. Yeah? I'm going to have so many calls tomorrow.
Oh, sorry.
Your parents are going to forbid you from coming to Bible study. Father Andy's ruining you.
I'll get blamed for that.
No, they'll blame me. Don't worry. Everything's a priest's fault. Everybody knows that. Good. Thank you for that comment. Any other questions or comments? Anything come up this week? Yeah.
Earlier you said it's not a sin if you make money, if you're wise, using your wisdom to
Yeah.
make money, right?
Yeah.
But where do you draw the line? Like, what if you start taking advantage of your brothers?
No, it's a sin when it becomes a sin. It becomes a sin when it's a sin. But just using wisdom to make money itself, no. Why not? Be clever about things. I was very clever. This is very stupid, but like, Facebook and Instagram like died for a couple hours the other day, right? Their stock plummeted. I think it was like $150 million in every hour that they were down, right? And then like at the end of then when they got started back up, I like went on my phone. I bought $50 worth of Facebook stock. I made $1.50 so far. Father, you play stocks? I have $50 now in stocks. I'm rich. So that was wise of me. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
So to build off on that question, where do you draw the line between trying to make money versus greed? Like, for example, right now, like I'm young, trying to save money for hopefully to buy a house here. Who knows? But like, where do you draw that line between, hey, be smart with your money, save for the future, versus you're just being greedy, you're just...
Yeah. When it becomes greed is a matter of moderation, and those are never, ever, or hardly ever a matter of like a simple rule. It's greed when it's too much. When exactly is it too much? I don't know. It depends on the situation. I think desiring to own a house is not a greedy desire. To desire, like, I need 4 houses. Okay, it's starting to, I need my 10th house. All right, I can pretty confidently say that might be greedy right there. But like, I would like to own the place that I live in. I think that's pretty reasonable. However, we live in California, which means you need like a lot of money in order to even do that. And you need to, go back to the 80 hours a week working. And that's not your fault. That's the sort of fault of the kind of economics that we're living in right now. So that's what makes it so complicated that I don't know where to draw the line. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, good. It's a valid question. That's a good topic. Any other? What else came up this week? I had to renew my passport. That was boring. I'm not even going anywhere. I just wanted to renew it. I'm going to NorCal this weekend. Pray for I'm helping on a retreat. Remember Father Peter? My biological son. He looks a lot like me. He's not actually my biological son, but he's doing a retreat up there. So I'm going up to help him. Me and a couple of seminarians are going to go up to help. I'm going to go see some friends in the East Bay on the way there. So I'll have an oddly pleasant weekend. Well, at least Friday will be pleasant. Then I'll have to help on the retreat. That's going to be miserable. It's in some like campground. There's going to be trees and stuff. Anybody doing anything interesting? Anybody else traveling? I haven't been on a plane in over a year. I'm sure it's going to be horrible. Isn't? I mean, it's only 45-minute flight, so we'll see. Unless Southwest cancels the flight, which they've been doing, then I will not be going to NorCal, which is also fine.
You'll be doing your homily on Sunday.
And I'll have it on me on Sunday, exactly. Otherwise, nothing. Yeah. Okay, good.
If you're always having fun,
Yes.
you have enough money to have all this fun.
Yep.
And suddenly you become sick. You will find out who your true friends are.
Ah, true friends, I agree.
You will really find
I always say this. I always say, when you're throwing a party and there's free food, you have hundreds of friends. When you're moving, you got like one, and only for a couple hours. Yep, I agree with that. All right, good. Do we pray at the end, or are we just going to stop? We just going to awkwardly stop, or do we pray? We pray, right? Okay. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Right? Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Come and get these biscotti, please, and try them. I will get fat if I eat them all. I will be back next week, so I'll see you then. Hang out and talk and stuff. I will be. I'll be back by Tuesday. Everyone come and get one of these now. I'll be very angry.
I have a random question.
No. I'll do it.
So I think in our creed, they changed it from saying one in being to consubstantial.
Yep. Stand out there and make people take it. Go.
Why did they make that change? What's the difference between saying consubstantial?
One in substance, because being has many different, is said in many ways. Substance is more precise. That's why.
Hello, Father Annie.
Hi.
Did my mom make those?
Yeah, she came and go get one. I will never respond to your text.
I just want to let you know
Yeah.
that I started making the blueberry cake before I
Okay.
came here,
By then.
and it was taking really long to cook.
Oh, that's fine. These are
so
pretty
that's
good.
why I'm waiting. So
They're pretty good. I'll tell your mom that they're good.
yeah, I tasted them when I was home already. I said like.
Jesse, would you like a biscotti?
Oh, you know what happened? They pulled out my tooth, so I'm
Oh,
not
no.
too bad.
That's the worst thing you could eat now. Yeah. It's too crispy. Oh, I gotta.
Bye, nice to see you.
I gotta stop this. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, how are you?
How are you?
Good. Video. Yeah, you guys are famous.
Oh, yeah, there you are.
My social security number is
And live video.